You're listening to Gnostic Studies. And we are going to do a lecture this evening. We want to continue with our study of Tarot and Kabbalah. Before we study today's class, we're going to review the previous class and the handout specifically. Here we have the class link in the description there in the comments area if you wanted to review that with us. We're just going to look at this handout before we jump into today's material. So today is Arcanum 20. Previous class was Arcanum 19. The different names for Arcanum 19: the Sun, Inspiration, and Love. Its meaning: the radiant sun, successes, good luck, the philosophical stone. Arcanum 19 is the arcanum of victory or of success. In Arcanum 19, a great alliance is established between two souls. Man and woman must kill desire to achieve the great alliance in order to realize the great work. Transcendental axiom: take the shield of your faith and advance with a decisive step, regardless of whether the wind is in your favor or all the winds are against you. We gave the explanation of the card in the class, so we'll skip that. In the related explanation, we see what Eliphas Levi said, Frenchman. He says, the Hebrew letter Kof is the 19th letter and the number of the sun, of the light, and of the truth. It is the first letter of the word Kabbalah. The number 19 represents wisdom applied to the absolute. It is with the absolute and with absolutes that we are therefore concerned. To discover such absolutes in the infinite, the indefinite, and the finite is the great work of the sages, which is termed by Hermes the work of the sun. The sun is the hieroglyphic sign of the truth because it is the visible source of light, and the stone is the symbol of stability. The ancients adored the sun under the figure of a black stone, which they named the Elagabalus stone or Heliogabalus stone. Before promising their adepts the elixir of long life, or the powder of projection, the disciples of Hermes recommended them to seek for the philosophical stone. So what is this stone or rock? The great initiator of the Christians invites his loyal followers to build upon the rock if they do not wish to see their buildings overturned. He names himself the cornerstone and says to the most faithful of his apostles, call yourself Peter, Petros, since upon this rock, Petrum, I will build my church. See Matthew 16, verse 18. To find this rock, which is the same as the philosophical stone, is then to have discovered the absolute, as the masters used to say. Here we have two practices that we got from Viracocha Arnaldo Krumheller. Invocation of the light and affirmation of the light. They're prayers that can be said in the morning, in the evening, and before meditation, related with delight. And as always, at the end of the handout, we have the different tarot cards showing the different symbolism for this arcana. Some of them we could say better than others. All right, well, let's stop with the review of the previous class and jump into today's class. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments area, and we'll do our best to address them. All right, today we're studying Arcanum 20, Resh. Numeric significance 200. Kabbalistic significance 20. It's the 20th letter. These are the symbols that have been used in the past to correspond to this arcanum. Some of the symbols. There's plenty of others as well. Arcanum 20 is the resurrection of the dead. Really, the resurrection of the soul is only possible through cosmic initiation. Human beings are dead and can only revive themselves by means of initiation. Hebraic letter Resh. Hour, the 11th hour of Apollonius. The angels and the cherubim and the seraphim fly with the murmur of their wings. There is rejoicing in heaven, awakening the earth, and the sun which surges from Adam. This process belongs to the great initiations of major mysteries, where only the terror of the law reigns. Transcendental axiom. The apple tree in bloom, fruit on the vine, sown in maturity. Let's look at our first reading from Manual of Practical Magic, from should be 1952, something like that, where the title of the chapter is called The Resurrection of the Dead. Subtitle, Potable Gold. You can see there's a relationship between 19 and 20, right? The arcanum we just studied, as there usually is an association between arcana. The potable gold is the same fire of the Kundalini. See the treatise of sexual alchemy by the same author. The universal medicine is in the potable gold. We should end all types of human weaknesses. The serpents of the abyss attempt to steal the potable gold from the disciple. The disciple who allows themselves to fall, then afterwards has to struggle a lot in order to recuperate what was lost. The chief of the wisdom of the snake is the angel Metatron. Metatron was the prophet Enoch, of which the Bible speaks. Enoch left us the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Enoch left us the tarot, in which is contained all the divine wisdom. When a bodhisattva lets themselves fall, they are then separated from their internal master, so as to be punished. It is in this manner that the bodhisattvas receive their punishment. Greetings. Thanks for tuning in. Continuing with our second reading from Esoteric Course of Kabbalah. Let us now concentrate profoundly on the study of Arcanum 20 of the Tarot. The hieroglyphic of this arcanum is judgment. A genie plays the trumpet, and the dead escape from the sepulchre. We must know that in this arcanum, a man, a woman, and a child are revived. This is the marvelous ternary. Ternary means 3, like a trinity kind of thing. Studying this arcanum, we are not going to continue with the old Hebraic monotony. It is necessary for us to judiciously concentrate on the problem of resurrection if what we truly want is to be resurrected masters. Questions. How do we reach resurrection? How do we not reach resurrection? How do we triumph? How do we fail? Answers. One achieves resurrection working with the Arcanum AZF without spilling the cup of Hermes. We do not reach resurrection by spilling the cup of Hermes. There is triumph when covetousness does not exist within us. There is failure when covetousness exists within us. Concrete explanation. There are 2 kinds of covetousness. First, covetousness for money. Second, covetousness for occult powers. There exists covetousness for money when we long for it for psychological purposes and not in order to correctly cover our physical necessities. Many people want money to gain social prestige, fame, high positions, etc. There is no covetousness for money when we get it with the sole purpose of taking care of our physical necessities. It is necessary to discover where necessity ends and where covetousness begins. There exists covetousness of occult powers when we want results. Those who only want results are covetous. Those who go around here and there accumulating theories, seeking for powers, who are today in one school and tomorrow in another, are in fact bottled up within the bottle of covetousness. The mind that is bottled up within covetousness is unstable. It goes from lodge to lodge, from school to school, from sect to sect, always suffering, always longing for powers, light, wisdom, illumination, etc., without ever achieving anything, since what is unstable can never comprehend that which is stable, permanent, and divine. Only God comprehends himself. The mind bottled up within the bottle of covetousness is incapable of comprehending the things that are out of the bottle. Covetous people want to bottle up God, and that is why they go around from school to school, always searching, always uselessly longing, because God cannot be bottled up by anybody. Therefore, whosoever wants to work in the great work must first abandon covetousness. The stonemason who is covetous abandons the great work when he finds other work, even when the latter is indeed of darkness. Covetous people withdraw themselves from the great work. Many are those who start the work, yet few are those who finish it. The resurrected masters can be counted on the fingers of the hand. Fatality. We met a disciple of Cagliostro, whose name was Geronimo, who used to work in the great work with the Arcanum AZF. And this man acquired degrees, powers, initiations, tunics, capes, shrouds of distinction, a sword, etc. The progress of Geronimo was worthy of admiration. Everything went well until the day he had the weak misfortune of revealing his secret to an occultist friend. This friend was horrified by the fact of not leaking or ejaculating the Eint Seminis, of not having orgasm, and considered Geronimo a barbarian. Thus he advised him to spill the cup of Hermes. He instructed him by saying that in the supreme moment of the spasm, he must mentally assume an edifying and essentially dignified manner, and thereafter he can very saintly spill the cup of Hermes, and that is how one should work in the great work. This is the logic of absurdity. Geronimo, the disciple of Cagliostro, who indeed was not as strong a man as was Cagliostro, the great Coptic, allowed himself to be convinced by the reason of absurdity, and he spilled the sacred cup. Thus, this is how he successively lost his shroud and sword, scepter and crown, tunics and degrees. This was the fatality. Arcanum 16 fulminated Geronimo with the terrible ray of cosmic justice. The three types of resurrection. There exist three basic types of energy: masculine, feminine, neutral. Likewise, there exist three types of resurrection. The first is the initiatic spiritual resurrection. The second is the resurrection of the body of liberation. The third is the resurrection with the physical body. No one can pass through the second or through the third type of resurrection without having previously passed through the first, the spiritual resurrection. Spiritual resurrection. Spiritual resurrection is achieved only with initiation. We must first resurrect spiritually in the fire and then in the light. Remember, he told us in chapter 1 that initiation is our life itself. The second type of resurrection, resurrection with the body of liberation. The resurrection with the body of liberation is achieved in the superior worlds. This body is organized with the best atoms from the physical body. This is a body of flesh that does not come from Adam. It is a body filled with indescribable beauty. The adepts can enter into the physical world and work in it with the physical body, with this body of, the adepts can enter into the physical world and work in it with this body of paradise, which they make visible and tangible at will. The resurrection with the physical body. On the third day, the adept comes to the sepulchre, where their physical body lies. The master then invokes their physical body, and it obeys by taking advantage of hyperspace and escapes from the sepulchre. This is how the sepulchre remains empty and the shroud left lying there. The body resurrects within the superior worlds. The holy women treat the body of the adept with drugs and aromatic ointments. Obeying supreme orders, the resurrected body enters within the soul master through the top of the sidereal head. This is how the master once again possesses the physical body. It is necessary to emphasize that in this type of resurrection, the physical body submerges itself within the suprasensible worlds. When a resurrected master, whose body was within the holy sepulchre for 3 days, wants to enter into the physical world, they then exercise their willpower and is able to appear and disappear at will instantaneously. Jesus the Christ is a resurrected master that for 3 days had his physical body in the holy sepulchre. After the resurrection, Jesus appeared before the disciples of Emmaus on the road and dined with them. After this, he presented himself before the 11 apostles and then before doubting Thomas, who only believed after putting his finger in the wound of the holy body of the great master. Hermes, Cagliostro, Quetzalcoatl, and many other great masters have preserved their physical bodies for thousands and even millions of years without death harming them. They are resurrected masters. The elixir of long life. Only with the Arcanum AZF is one able to produce the elixir of long life. Resurrection is impossible without the elixir of long life. All right, that's the end of the second reading from Esoteric Course of Kabbalah. We're going to continue with the third book, which has 2 chapters. Initiatic Path and the Arcana of Tarot and Kabbalah. Description of the card. In the waters of life, there is a column, a symbol of construction. At the base of the column is a cubic stone. Of the 2 columns, the white and the black, only the white has remained, which is a symbol of purification. In the middle section is a mummy, from which escapes a sparrowhawk with a human head that flies towards the worlds of the spirit, representing the soul. It is indubitable that upon awakening consciousness, we become sparrowhawks with human heads, being able to fly freely through starry space. Upon the head of the sparrowhawk and the mummy is a symbol representing the pineal gland, indication of illumination. The soul of any Egyptian hierophant has 4 bodies. The mummy, the Ka, astral body, the Ba, mental body, the Ku, causal body. Woe to those who continue living after attaining the second birth. They become, in fact, Hanasmusen, abortions of the Divine Mother Kundalini, with a double center of gravity. And that is, if we've created the solar bodies, the solar astral, solar mental, solar causal bodies, but we haven't eliminated the ego, the source of desire, the problems that exist within us, the errors. Esoteric significance of Arcanum 20. Arcanum 20 is the resurrection. In order for there to be resurrection, there needs to have previously been death. Without it, there is no resurrection. How beautiful it is to die from instant to instant. It is only with death that the new comes. We need to die from moment to moment if we truly want to individualize ourselves. Clearly, he's talking about eliminating the ego. He's not talking about suicide or anything like that. He's talking about eliminating the ego from moment to moment. The pluralized I, the ego, excludes all individuality. In no way is it possible to have individuality where multiple entities, or I's, exist, which argue amongst themselves and give rise to various psychological commitments within us. When Set, sometimes called Seth, the ego, dies in an integral form, then only the being remains in us. That which gives us authentic individuality. When Set is disintegrated totally, then the consciousness, the soul, is freed. It radically awakens, and then interior illumination arrives. Really, the resurrection of the soul is only possible through cosmic initiation. Human beings are dead, and they are only able to revive by means of initiation. Let us remember the words of Jesus, the great Kabir. In Matthew chapter 8, verse 22, he says, "Let the dead bury the dead." In Matthew chapter 22, verses 23 through 32, he says, "God is not the God of the dead, but of the living." Just as there exist three basic types of energy, masculine, feminine, and neutral, there also exist three types of resurrection. First, the spiritual resurrection. Second, resurrection with the body of liberation. Third, resurrection with the physical body. No one may pass through the second or third types of resurrection without having passed through the spiritual resurrection. First, spiritual resurrection. It is achieved with initiation. We must resurrect spiritually first in the fire and then with the light. That is to say, first we raise the 7 serpents of fire and then the 7 serpents of light, attaining the Gnostic initiation and spiritual resurrection. Second, resurrection with the body of liberation. This is realized in the superior worlds. This body is formed with the best atoms of the physical body. It is a body of flesh which does not come from Adam, a body of indescribable beauty. With this body of paradise, adepts may enter the physical world and work in it, making themselves visible and tangible at will. Third, resurrection with the physical body. On the third day, the initiate in astral body comes before his holy sepulchre, accompanied by the divine hierarchies. The initiate invokes his body, and with the assistance of the divine hierarchies, it rises, entering hyperspace. This is how the escape from the sepulchre is achieved. In the suprasensible worlds of hyperspace, the holy women treat the body of the initiate with drugs and aromatic unguents. We could say ointments. Obeying supreme well, let me just back up. Also, don't forget that when they made mummies in various cultures, because they didn't just do it in Egypt, that they took out certain organs and put certain things on the body in order to help it be preserved. Obeying supreme orders, the physical body then penetrates the astral body through the top of the head. This is how a master comes to retain possession of his physical body. This is the gift of Cupid. So normally right now, let's say, if we're alive in the physical world, then our vital body is the thing that directs the physical body. In this case, what they're talking about, the physical body has died, which means that the vital body is no longer able to direct it. However, because the initiate created their solar astral body, if it's allowed, through certain negotiations, we could say, with the law of karma, for certain purposes, then they can allow their astral body to control the physical body. This is the concept that he's presenting to us here. There's a question that says, what book is this from? And let me put the link to the web page that we're doing today, which has the citation. The book is called Initiatic Path in the Arcana of Tarot and Kabbalah. After the resurrection, the master will not return to die and is eternal. With this immortal body, they can appear and disappear instantaneously and make themselves visible in the physical world at will. Jesus the Christ is a resurrected master whose physical body was in the Holy Sepulchre for 3 days. After the resurrection, Jesus appeared in the path of the disciples of Emmaus and dined with them. Later, before doubting Thomas, who only believed when he placed his finger in the wounds in the holy body of the great master. Hermes Trismegistus, Cagliostro, Paracelsus, Nicholas Flamel, Quetzalcoatl, Saint Germain, Babaji, etc., conserved their physical bodies from thousands or millions of years ago without death being able to affect them. They are resurrected masters. It is only possible to create the elixir of long life with the Arcanum AZF. The resurrection is impossible without the elixir of long life. So that was chapter 20, and now we'll read probably chapter 42, be my guess. Let's see. Yeah, 42 of the same book, which gives us the initiatic significance. See if there's any more comments. Yeah, thank you guys for joining, and you're welcome for the class. Of course, it's helped us. That's why we're presenting it, and we hope that it helps you more than it's helped us. So let's continue with our reading the initiatic significance of Arcanum 20. The hieroglyphic of this Arcanum is the resurrection of the dead. It is necessary that we concentrate well on resurrection, which has many phases, many aspects. Above all, for there to be resurrection, there must be death. Without it, there is no resurrection. It is necessary to understand that from death comes life. Death is the crown of everyone. The path of life is formed by the hoof prints of the horse of death. Everything in life is subject to death. In everything exists something of mortality and something of immortality. I want to say to you that mortality and immortality is very relative. Even God himself, who is immortal, is, however, in the long run, mortal. And my personal comment is that he may be talking about the cosmic day and the cosmic night there. It is necessary to analyze what one understands God to be. God is the army of the voice. He is the great Word. Certainly St. John said, "In the beginning was the Verb, and the Verb was with God, and the Verb was God." God is the voice of the Elohim, the choir of masters who initiate the Mahamvantara, the cosmic day. This is God. When the night of Pralaya, the cosmic night, comes, he ceases to exist for the universe, dying to the universe and being born to the Absolute. For this reason, it can be said that God also dies. After the cosmic night, in the new dawning of the cosmic day, he rises once again from within the Absolute. Let's concentrate upon the constitution of the human being. In order to be a real human being, in the most complete sense of the word, it is necessary to have or to possess the solar bodies. We have already spoken a lot about the Egyptian Sahu, which is the same as the wedding garment of the parable of the Lord, who sat at the table of the Lord without wedding garments, and whom the Master ordered be cast into the darkness. The same for us. Without wedding garments or the solar bodies, neither can we enter the kingdom of heaven. It is logical that whosoever does not possess the solar bodies is clothed with the lunar bodies, which are cold, spectral, diabolic, tenebrous. A human being clothed in the lunar bodies is not a real human being. They are an intellectual animal, which is a higher type of animal. But the error of humanity is to believe that they are already human beings, which they are not. Let's recall the story of Diogenes, who walked through, I think it was Athens, with his lantern, looking for a man, but he could not find one. Only persons such as Kut Humi, Master Moria, Saint Germain, etc. are real human beings. That which abounds here are intellectual animals. The first thing which must be created in the forge of the Cyclops is the true astral body, thus making us immortal in the world of 24 laws. Afterwards, we need to create the solar mental body, ruled by 12 laws. Whosoever creates it is immortal in the world of the 12 laws. Following this, we have to fabricate the body of conscious willpower. And one becomes immortal in the world of 6 laws. This is related with the cosmic octave and the ray of creation, something that we talk about in another class called Gnostic Chemistry and Cosmology. Whosoever creates their solar bodies needs to pass through various deaths. It is necessary that the solar atom be born in us, the Abel of the Bible. In order to become immortal, it is necessary to possess the solar bodies. If we wish to emancipate ourselves, or keep ourselves on the path of the razor's edge, the way of the revolution of the consciousness, then we must descend to the 9th sphere of nature. This has nothing to do with what has gone on before. To descend to the 9th sphere is to enter into revolution. We revolt against the cosmos, against nature, against everything. And it is in this manner that we create the solar bodies and incarnate the real being, and we become twice born. In truth, I say to you that if you are not born again, you will not be able to enter the kingdom of heaven. The celestial Adam, who is dressed with the solar bodies, must pass through various deaths. He must kill the I, the ego. We bring that multitude of I's from the past. Within the human being, there does not exist authentic individuality. And these I's, these egos, personify laziness, gluttony, lust, anger, covetousness, etc. That ego, that I, which is dressed with the lunar bodies, is the lunar atom, the atom of sin. We need the solar atom to be born within us. The twice-born find themselves before 2 paths, that of the right and that of the left. Whosoever decides to dissolve the ego takes the path of the right, so as to become an ineffable being. Those who decide against dissolving the ego take the path of the left and become diabolic beings. A Hannes Musen, or Hannes Mus, is a miscarriage of the cosmic mother. But this is not everything, however. The seeds of the eyes, the seeds of the ego must be destroyed. One must bathe in the waters of Lethe so as to forget all of the evilness of the ego, and afterwards in the waters of Eunoe to strengthen the virtues and be confirmed in the light. These are rivers that are mentioned in Dante's Divine Comedy. We're going to read about them because there's an excerpt in another book called Esoteric Course of Runic Magic. We're going to read about them at the end. But the one river allows us to eliminate the memories of the ego, memories of evilness, and the other assists us strengthening virtues so that we can be confirmed in the light. Up to this point, all of the work corresponds to the planet Earth. Innocence has been attained here. There remain, however, the outer shells of the lunar bodies, and these must be destroyed in the lunar infernos. The demon Apopi, or the body of desire, which is the lunar astral body, retains the sexual desire and everything of that nature must be destroyed. Now, we have to distinguish between sexual desire and the sexual impulse, the creative impulse. This Apopi is a terrible, perverse demon, and one destroys him in the lunar infernos before ascending to the lunar heaven. Later on, the work continues in the planet Mercury, where the animal mind, or demon Hai, must be destroyed. This is the diabolic animal mind. This vehicle is none other than a demon, right? The lunar mental body, and one must go to the atomic infernos of Mercury in order to destroy it. The death of the demon Apopi, the terrible monster of cravings, calls for tremendous super efforts, super work. Only in this manner does one bring about the destruction of the demon Apopi and the demon Hai. Adam the sinner must die. It is necessary that all we have that is earthly, animal, should die, in order to resurrect in the heart of Osiris. He who has created the solar bodies no longer needs to carry that burden of desires and cravings. They must be put to death through tremendous purifications. Osiris signifies something beyond the profundities, far beyond desires and beyond the mind. When we return to the father Osiris, to the mother Isis or Isis, and to the intimate Horus, the triangle is complete, perfect, self-realized. This is the resurrection of the dead, since we have here death and resurrection. I was reincarnated in the sacred land of the pharaohs during the dynasty of the pharaoh Khephren. I knew the ancient mysteries of secret Egypt in depth, and in truth I say to you that I have never been able to forget them. There are two types of mummies. One of these types relates to the dead, whose cadavers were submitted to the processes of mummification, and the other to the dead in a state of catalepsy. There is very special secret related to mummification. The brain, viscera, and heart have to be removed, and these were preserved in sacred vessels. And in the space left by the heart, a sacred crown of gold, and the attributes of cow of gold, and the attributes of Hathor were placed. The bodies were preserved due to the fact that the Egyptians maintained the etheric body. An igneous form of dressing was used by them upon the chakras, on the palms of the hand, and on the arches of the feet. Honey from the bees helped to preserve the mummy, and upon it were placed the elemental genii to care for the mummy, and those were placed under the protection of the genii of the earth, Keb. Although my words may seem too enigmatic and strange, in truth I say to you that my physical body did not die, but did, however, go to the sepulchre. There is another type of mummy, that of catalepsy. In my case, was certain. My case was certainly not an exception. Many other hierophants have passed to the sepulchre in a cataleptic state. It should in no way be a surprise to us that this very special type of mummy continues to live without any type of nutrition whatsoever, but with all of the natural faculties in suspension. Remember that the toads during winter buried in the mud lie in rest like corpses without any food at all, but in spring they return to life. Have you ever heard of hibernation? Egyptian catalepsy goes much further and is also wisely combined with magic and occult chemistry. My soul obviously escaped from the body. It is unquestionable that this very special type of mummification was not an obstacle to continuing my cycle of reincarnations. After my death, my soul would be able to reincorporate permanently in that mummy if Tum, the father, wished it to be so. This body would then leave its cataleptic state once and for all, and my soul, vested with that flesh, would be able to live as any other person traveling from country to country. It would eat, drink, and live once again beneath the light of the sun, etc., etc. The aforementioned mummy would be taken from the sepulchre for good via the fourth dimension. The Aztec and Egyptian wisdom that was from Atlantis, and that was in turn from Lemuria. The Lemurians and the Atlanteans were giants. They constructed the great pyramids of Egypt and of San Juan of Teotihuacan. Synthesis of Arcanum 20. The potable gold is the fire itself of the Kundalini. The universal medicine is within the potable gold. We must put an end to all types of human weaknesses. The serpents of the abyss try to rob the disciple of the potable gold. The disciple who allows themselves to fall must later struggle greatly to regain that which was lost. So now that's the end of what we wanted to cover related with this Arcanum, except for this excerpt about the rivers of Lethe and Eunoe. Just to address some comments. Someone says, I think they're enjoying the lecture. Another says self-parthenogenesis in this science world. Which I'm guessing is another way of describing that cataleptic state or human hibernation. I know, I read in a book about Taoists doing that in the caves in China, and about a man in India who did it, and the British built a brick wall around him, so that they were sure that nobody would touch him or do anything to him. And then after, I forget what it was, a week or a certain number of days, they then took like a brick room. They just built a wall, 4 walls and a ceiling around him. And then they took it all down and they checked him, said he was dead. And then the disciple of that guy was supposed to do something. I think they put water on his nose. And after a certain period of time, he slowly started to breathe again and come back. So anyway, it's not unique to this explanation related with Egypt. There are stories of this occurring in other areas of the world as well. But returning to the topic at hand, this Arcanum number 20, related with resurrection. It was mentioned, these 2 rivers, Lethe and Eunoe. So we're going to read now from another book called Runic Magic, something like that. Let's see what it's. Esoteric Course of Runic Magic. The purgatorial region is very painful. So he's talking about going through a process, right? Internal process. And I wanted to leave from there. I was longing for my emancipation. Katon, the angel of purgatory, fights in those molecular regions for the soul's freedom. This angel greatly suffered when he lived in this world. Any initiate knows that when in Utica, Africa, this being was a man who preferred death instead of living under the chains of slavery. I also wanted liberty. Therefore I asked for it, and it was granted unto me. Each time that a soul abandons the purgatorial region, an intense joy originates within the heart of Katon. So the longed-for moment arrived. Since I had known the temporal and eternal fire and had departed from abrupt ways and from narrowness, I had to encounter the sun inside of my own soul. S-U-N. Thus I felt that from the unknown, something mysterious was forcing, straining the intimate atomic doors of my interior universe. My fears were useless. Vain was the resistance. It was compelling me, constraining me, pressing me, and finally, O God of mine, I felt myself transformed. The cosmic Christ had entered within me. But my individuality, where had it gone? What had happened to my vain human personality? Where was it? Only remembrances of the Holy Land were coming into my memory. The humble birth in the stable of the world, the baptism in the river Jordan, the fast in the wilderness, the transfiguration, Jerusalem, the beloved city of the prophets, the human multitudes of those times, the doctors of the law, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, etc. I was floating in the surrounding environment of the temple. I courageously advanced towards a table before which the modern Caiaphases, the most high dignitaries of the failing church, were seated. They were revested with their sacerdotal habits, which means their clothing, and the cross was hanging from their necks. They were projecting, planning, tracing insidious and perfidious plans against me in secrecy. You thought that I would not return, but I am here again. This was the only thing that occurred to me to utter. Moments later, the Lord had gone out of me, and I again felt myself an individual. Then, together with Litelantes, that's his wife, I rested for brief moments at the foot of my cross. I cannot deny that lamentably the thorns of the heavy crosspiece were hurting me, and I had a brief discussion with Litelantes about it. Afterwards, she and I advanced towards the platform of the temple. A master took the floor in order to say that Christ has no individuality, and that he incarnates and manifests himself inside any human being who is properly prepared. It is clear that the word human being or man is extremely demanding. Diogenes did not find a single man in Athens. The intellectual animal is not a man or human being. In order to become one needs to be dressed with the wedding garments of the soul. The famous to soma heliakon, the body, or better if we say bodies, of the solar human being. Those are the solar astral, solar mental, solar causal bodies. Fortunately, I built those bodies of gold in the forge of the Cyclops, in the flaming forge of Vulcan. He's talking about using the Arcanum AZF in the ninth sphere. Hercules had repeated all of his tasks, all of his labors inside of me. He had to strangle all of the poisoned serpents, which wanted to take his life when he was still a child. He had to decapitate the Hydra of Lerna, to clean the stables of Augeas, to kill the lion of Nemea, to take out Cerberus from within the infernal dog from within the frightful Tartarus, etc. Hercules, the Christ, practices what he teaches, and each time when he incarnates inside of a human being, he repeats the whole of his cosmic drama. This is why the Lord is the master of masters. It is written that the Son of Man has to descend into the atomic infernos of nature. It is written that the Son of Man has to ascend to heaven after having passed through the purgatorial region. The Son of Man has to carefully submerge himself within the waters of Lethe in order to reconquer innocence. With great urgency, we need to forget the sinful and absurd past, which is the origin of much bitterness. The Lethe and Eunoe rivers are certainly, and without the least bit of doubt, a single river of clear and profound waters. On one side, its waters delectably descend, singing upon its rocky bed, carrying the marvelous virtue which erases the memory of sin, the remembrances of myself. Its name is Lethe, The other, so holy and sublime shore, has the delectable enchantment of fortifying virtues, and its name is Eunoe. It is obvious that the tenebrous remembrances of too many yesterdays must be erased, because to our own disgrace they have the tendency of actualizing, projecting themselves into the future through the alley of the present. In the name of truth, I have to say that the profound work with the waters of Lethe is frightfully difficult and more bitter than bile. The matter of passing beyond the body, affections, and the mind is not easy. Too many beloved shadows live within time. The memories of desire persist. They refuse to die. They do not want to disappear. But what about sex? The Mithuna, sex yoga. Then what, O God of mine? The twice-born already know very well that they cannot return to the flaming forge of Vulcan. It is obvious that the Mithuna is vital, cardinal, and definitive in order to build the wedding garments of the soul, the To Soma Heliacon. However, any initiate knows that this is only the inferior work of initiation. Sex is forbidden for the Son of Man. This is known by the gods, and as thus it is written. First, we must work with the third logos in the ninth sphere. The third logos is Binah, the Holy Spirit, until reaching the second birth. So first we must work with the third logos in the ninth sphere until reaching the second birth, which the great Kabir Jesus spoke of to the Rabbi Nicodemus. Afterwards, we need to work with the second logos. Second logos is Hokmah, the cosmic Christ. Then, sex is prohibited. The error of many pseudo-esotericists and pseudo-occultists, monks and anchorites, consists of renouncing sex without having previously built the solar bodies in the forge of the Cyclops. These sincerely mistaken ones want to work with the second logos without having previously worked with the third logos. Behold, here is their mistake. The definitive and radical sexual abstention is only commendatory for the twice-born, for the Son of Man. Whosoever is admitted into the temple of the twice-born must dissolve the ego, must incinerate the seeds of the I, and must bathe in the waters of Lethe. This is known by the gods, the sparks, the flames, the resplendent dragons of wisdom. Truly no one could pass beyond sex, the affections, and the mind without previously having bathed within the waters of Lethe. After the second birth, we need to tear the sexual Adamic veil, or veil of Isis, into pieces in order to penetrate into the great mysteries. Children of earth, listen to your instructors, who are the children of the fire. Adepts of the light, you must invoke your Divine Mother Kundalini and then submerge yourselves into the profound waters of Lethe. So that's the other quote, the other excerpt we wanted to give you related with this Arcanum, Arcanum 20, in order to understand, give some more pieces of this process, the Gnostic, Initiatic, Esoteric knowledge. So at this point, we're going to open it up for questions and comments. If you have any, please feel free to leave them in the comments area. We will not be able to do meditation this week, so we want to invite you to class next week. We're going to continue with Arcanum 21, the next Arcanum. What else? Yeah, we're going to continue to study after Arcanum 22. We're going to do the Tetragrammaton in one class, and we'll look at the minor arcana. And then that will conclude the Tarot and Kabbalah series, and we will move on to another series which we'll call Hermetic Masonry. This is about the combination of arcana, how to combine numbers together, how to see numbers and their symbolism, how to see them differently. We got a question that says, I didn't quite understand what they were talking about, the third logos. Understandable. It's, let's see if we can pull up some graphics for you to assist related with that. We're going to go over to Introduction to Gnostic Chemistry and Cosmology. So he's talking about the three logos related with the three primary forces, positive, negative, and neutral, called Keter, Hokmah, Binah in Kabbalah. Let's see if we have a better graphic for it here. So this is 10 Sephiroth of the, what is it? Tree of Life, Tree of Knowledge. It's a symbol. It's a sort of a chart or a map that we can use. He's talking about 10 Sephiroth. So first thing that's created when, I think we do actually have a better graphic. Let's see. Might be in the first class. So the concept is that there's the absolute, which is divided into three aspects: Ein, Ein Sof, Aur. Then, from Ein Sof Aur, and Aur means light, something emerges, and that's the first Sephiroth Keter, which is called the Father in Christianity, Brahma in Hinduism. It has many different names. So when that happens, then we have existence. Prior to that, there was non-existence. So it's a different thing, we could say. So that we have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Keter, Hokmah, Binah, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. This Trinity. So then the Trinity is created. Let's work with this one over here. And then from the Trinity, we have the rest of creation. And then we have the physical world down there at the bottom, Malkut. From the physical world, we are now have a physical body, right? Unless we're dreaming right now, but we have a physical body and an etheric body. And then we have a lunar astral, lunar mental, lunar causal body. The goal is to transmute the creative energy, create the solar astral, solar mental, solar causal bodies. Then we can reunite with our inner being, the Horus, or Horus, of Egyptian cosmology. The way that we do that is by working with the third logos. So, the third logos, let's see if we have a good graphic in this class. Sorry, I don't have all the graphics ready, but I know there'll be one in this class at some point. Oh, here's the laws that we talked about before. About we create the solar astral, solar mental, solar causal, and that's related with the worlds. The cosmic octave is this graphic, which shows how creation exists. It starts up here, it descends down, and then it strikes down here, and then it reascends back up. So there's the ray of creation in descent. This is the descending octave. And then once it descends, now it's ascending. We pass through this. Now we're a human being, and so now we have to continue. We have to push through. There's a need to push through this pause, which is called we need to give ourselves a shock in order to do that. And then we can persist back up in order to return to divinity from the origin of creation. These are the 10 Sephiroth inside the human body. But I know we've got a graphic where we talk about, here it is. Yeah. So, Each of the three triangles that you see there in the human body are a way of understanding the human body, related with the 10 Sephiroth inside the human body. So then those three triangles are related with the first triangle, which again is the logoic triangle, the third logos, second logos, and the first logos that we were talking about before. So the first logos has its center of gravity. First logos, Keter, the Father, has its center of gravity in the head, in the crown. The second logos, the Son, the cosmic Christ, Chokmah, has its center of gravity in the heart. The Christ has its center of gravity in the heart. And Binah, the Holy Spirit, has its center of gravity in the sexual organs. So when we're talking about transmuting the creative energy, that's why we need to do that. When we're talking about working with the Holy Spirit in the ninth sphere. The ninth sphere is Yesod. Yesod is the sexual organs. The ninth sphere is the sexual organs. We have to work with divinity inside of us, which is in the creative energy, which means to transmute the creative energy. That is to connect and disconnect with our spouse. Man and women connect and disconnect without wasting the creative energy. This gives that energy a shock, which then allows it to create something internally, not externally. Not having a child in the external physical world, having a child in the internal world. It's a different process, takes longer, but this is the concept. And so as we transmute the energy more and more, we give birth to the solar astral body, which is the first step. We transmute, give a shock, fill this pause up. So then we create the solar astral body, which is related with the planetary worlds. Solar mental body after that, solar causal body. And then we have those vehicles that we can work with. Then, if we were to lose the physical body, we can still work inside of those bodies. But we have to work with that creative energy. So that's the third logos and the second logos. The third logos means the Holy Spirit, that energy. Because what we have to understand, and this is one of the first things that we study in this class, is actually the second, right? The three primary forces. That we have a tendency to anthropomorphize these forces, to make them into something human, to humanize them. But they're divine forces, positive, negative, neutral. They have a pull in different directions. But when we learn how to combine them together, that's how we create. It's called the Triamazikamno. These three forces are like three willpowers in the ray of creation. Each of these three forces contains in itself all the possibilities of the three, but only in their conjunction, each of them manifests only the principle, either the positive, negative, or neutral. So that's related with the law of three. Let's see. I think I need to go back one more. The law of three. Right here. Three laws. And above that, in the absolute, is one law. So let's go to this one. Three laws. And the absolute has one law. Because all these are really one. To us. Because we're outside of it. All right. Yeah, question is, are you on other platforms such as YouTube? Yep, we got a YouTube channel, and I will post in here the YouTube channel, or this lecture actually on YouTube, so that you can see there. It's part of a series. There's other lectures on there as well. And I believe there's the Chemistry and Cosmology series. If there isn't, then probably we'll cover that at some point, because it's important to have that available to understand it. We have some psychology lectures on there, dream yoga. So in any case, if you have any more questions, please feel free to submit them. Hopefully this helped understand about the different logos related with the three logos, because logos in Greek means word or verb. And remember, when that God creates through the word or the verb. This is part of creation, and so that's why that aspect is there primary. The three logos, three different aspects of the logos, also called three primary forces. So thank you guys for your attention, for your participation today, and because you participated through paying attention. We appreciate that. We appreciate your comments, and we want to again invite you to next week's class at the same time. We're going to be covering Arcanum 21, which is about how to understand the use of the creative energy properly, and the possible dangers or pitfalls that we have. We also want to remind you that you can always email us, gnosticstudies@gmail.com, if you have any questions or comments, and we recommend that you do that, because from there we can find people who are interested in different types of classes that maybe are not ready for the public, that maybe are not present or given presently to the public. So we recommend that you email us if you're interested in those type of things. If you're interested in understanding more, if you have any questions, gnosticstudies@gmail.com. All right, we're gonna sign off there. Thanks again. We wish you the best in your esoteric work. Until next time.